Are you interested to do a yoga teacher training? Then this video is for you. Tune in, get yourself a cup of tea, get cozy and be inspired. So, welcome to this talk on the yoga teacher training and how to choose the right one. And I know that's not an easy task, because when you are deciding to become a yoga teacher, it's a lot to think about and there is a lot to choose from as well. So my name is Nicola Moberg. I am running a studio called Purna Yoga Helsinki in the center of Helsinki, and we have yoga teacher trainings in person. So I have myself gone through my very first teacher training in 2004, which was in Spain. It was a prolonged course over half a year where I learned a lot about yoga, philosophy, and a little bit of teaching as well. Then when I became pregnant, I had my first child, I decided I'm going to go on a pregnancy yoga teacher training, which was very, very useful, because I realized there is a lot in that. So that has been helping me through my own pregnancies, and I've been, since the last 15 years, helping women and couples through the birth process as well. So when I moved to Finland, I found Purna Yoga. And Purna Yoga has offered 200-hour teacher trainings. And so I was straight going into that. And it was almost like I did my very first teacher training. So it was actually an amazing start, or getting back into yoga, because I was already for so many years looking for something really special. And it seemed to be that I have found something special there. So I later did the 500-hour training with my teacher Adil Palkkivala, who actually created the Purna Yoga system. And Purna Yoga itself also offers 2,000-hour trainings, which is the next level for me. So how to choose the right program? That's the question today. Because like I said, you find it from in-person to online, to some are called 200-hour teacher trainings, or many are. Then there is also a Yoga Alliance. So there is a lot to think about when you think about the teacher training. So I'm going to answer a few questions for now, and then if you have more, feel free to ask me anytime. So when you're looking for a teacher training, look for the style which resonates you. I remember I was in a training and there was somebody in the group who said, like, well, I'm just trying to get my hours for a certification. And then I felt like, is it about the certificate, or is it actually about what you're learning? So I felt like in the end, it's really not about the certificate, because yoga is a journey. And when you are as a yoga student working on a self-development, because that is what it is in the end, it doesn't matter how many certificates you have. It's really about what you have learned. So ask the school, what lineage are they? So are they following certain master teachers from many years before, or is it something more new and something more invented? So yoga, as you know, has an immensely long tradition. And for example, in Purna Yoga, we are applying a lot of the philosophy, we are using that knowledge, how we can actually live in our daily lives. And so when you look for a teacher training which is totally focused on asana, that means there is not that much yoga in it really, because there's a difference between yoga and asana. So a lot of people think when they are starting to practice yoga and they do the physical practice, that this is yoga. But that is only a small part of it. So we have to remember that when we are getting into a yoga class, there has to be something holistic about it. If it's a good stretch, that's great, but it's not about that. Because, for example, at Purna Yoga, you also receive like a very, very good workout if it comes to the body. But there is so much more about the body. So ask the teacher, ask about the lineage, and then ask, where is this coming from? Because it has much more depth to it if your program has teachers after teachers who have been giving on, passing on their wisdom. For us in Purna Yoga, it's like this, that what we learn has been approved by our teacher. There's something he learns. He practices this for 2, 3, 4 years before he even gives it to his students. So there's so much depth to it. So we do the trials and errors before we give it and pass it on to our students. So that was number 1. Number 2, ask your teacher how they have become a teacher, where they have trained, what their certifications are. And since I talked about the certificates, it's not the most important, but as a yoga teacher of teachers, they really have to know what they're doing, because anyone can teach teachers, and that's very sad in the yoga world. So you cannot just go out and or you can go out today and say like, hey, I'm a yoga teacher and I'm now teaching teachers, and just simple and easy. But it's really not like that. It takes a lot of experience and a lot of dedication to actually be able to teach teachers, because you can actually damage your students if you're just doing what you think is right. I mean, I've been there. I was in this situation when I was younger, and I did already many, many years of yoga, and then I felt like, oh, I could easily pass this on to somebody. And then realizing, oh my God, I'm so living on the surface, when you're just learning, you're like, yeah, superficially I can teach a lot, but you have to go deeper. You have to have an own practice of years and years and years in order to be able to give it to somebody. So ask your teacher, what training do they have? How many hours they have trained? Are they still training with their teachers? Because I believe that as a yoga teacher trainer, you also have to have teachers. Unless you're 80, then your teachers may not be alive anymore. But for my case, I study with my teachers all the time in order to also give my students the experience and the knowledge and the wisdom, which is of course constantly updated. It's not so that you once do a training and you know it all. This is ever evolving. So that was number 2. So number 3, if safety is not the most important part of the training, then you should skip it, because safety is such a huge thing today. A lot of people, I just recently had a student coming in, he came the first time, actually a visitor in Helsinki, who said like, well, I thought all yoga is the same. And I hear that very often, that people think, well, yoga is yoga, it's just this one kind of thing, but it's not. And if you have practiced yoga before, you probably have experienced different teachers, different styles, different systems, and then you realize they all have their own thing about it. So what's really important in a yoga teacher training is that you are taught how to keep your students safe, and your teacher needs to know how to keep the students safe. And when I honestly go online, since I am creating my own YouTube channel, I also research on YouTube what is out there. And there's a lot of harm done, because people do things without knowing that they're actually wrong, and they maybe in the moment feel okay, it's okay to do that, but in the long run, you can actually hurt yourself. And we do not want to do that. I would not want to be in a position where I'm not sure if what I'm teaching my students is actually safe or not. So please make sure that you find a teacher which is really based in alignment, because without alignment, there can almost be not any safety. Because when you just move from one pose to the next, when it comes to asana, then you don't have time to stop. You don't know what's wrong or what's right. But once you stop, you know what's going on in the body. So it's important to know the anatomy, to understand the anatomy. And I tell you something, in our teacher training, the anatomy is very, very practical. Because this is something I used to be afraid of. Oh my God, I have to study all this anatomy. And then I realized you study what you need, what's useful for you as to becoming a teacher. So you don't have to go into the functions of the heart. No, it's not important. but you have to know where certain muscles are and how they affect other parts of your body in order to strengthen or in order to release something. So the asana with us is very precise, and so if you're choosing a training, make sure that you know how to stay safe yourself, and of course your students as well. So now the next question is, make sure that there is time spent on teaching skills. And this is something I remember from my first training, which was a bit lacking. We were studying, we were practicing, but then how to deliver, actually how to message something to a student is usually not taught. And again, I see that on very, very popular yoga teachers who are famous on YouTube, where when I take their class, I feel like something is off there, even though they're really good at what they do, and that often has to do with how the message is delivered. And I must say, my teacher Adil Palkiwala, he is the master of this. He taught us how to use our voice. He taught us how to use grammatics. Really, like you were learning how to use the words correctly in order to get an effect from the student. So the way you are developing your skills in a yoga teacher training really matters on how your students will perceive you. Because you can be a great teacher and a great practitioner of yoga, but if you cannot deliver your message, then your students will not receive it in any beneficial way. So teaching skills are very, very important. Another part is how the philosophy of yoga is actually applied to your yoga teacher training. So again, in my previous studies, I learned about a lot of Hindu gods, which I thought was quite interesting because in some way I thought that Hinduism and yoga are not the same, and they're not. It's just that a lot of Hindus have practiced yoga, so this came like a match. And so a lot of people now think that when you're studying yoga, you're studying Hinduism, which is not the case at all. Like yoga is much, much older than any religion. So it originates in the Vedas. That's where it was heard of the first time. And the Vedas are estimated to about 25,000 years old. So how much of that knowledge and that evolution of yoga are we actually applying? So ask that system you're looking into, that program you're looking into, how can we use that knowledge into our daily lives? Because that is what really matters, right? I mean, even 5,000 years ago, people lived completely different. Even 500 years ago or 100 years ago, people lived completely different. So for us, it's really about how we can apply this beautiful philosophy into our everyday lives. How can we use it? I give you a simple example. When we work on meditation, when we work with the meditation, we will connect to a feeling of gratitude, as an example. And so when you feel grateful, when you are using that power, because it's not just a word, it's not just something you do, there's a power behind it. You can actually enhance your life. You can actually feel better just by feeling gratitude. So that is something which the yoga has talked about. This is just a very simple, easy example. Yoga is so much deeper, but this is something how we can use for every single day. We can say like, okay, how can I wake up in the morning and how can I make this day a wonderful day? If you choose so, right? Because everything is a choice. So philosophy is vast. It's a lifetime of study. But for our part in Purna Yoga, we are studying that what's necessary for this time of our evolution, right? So I can go into study all these texts and I can gain all this knowledge. But what am I going to do with the knowledge? So I need to be able to apply the knowledge and I need to use it for my everyday life. So that's another way to look at it. So the next thing is, in the end, the yoga teacher training is a personal development course. And this is where people often ask, hey, I am actually a complete beginner, but I'm really interested to go deeper. Is this training for me? And I say, yeah. I mean, if you want to go deeper, it's from that urge, you're already creating something wonderful. So also, people come and say, like, I have only practiced just for that short time, maybe I've only done online. I tell them, come and visit the studio, or come and do some online classes with us, and then see how it feels. Go feel it, because it's not so much about that everyone comes into the door, please do my teacher training. I am not the kind of person. I want to have you to say, this is for me. I want you to feel that this is for you, because it's about your own personal development. And maybe in the end, it's not for you, right? So I want somebody who is not sure if they should come to us or should go somewhere else. I say, go and feel, go inside, because this is what we teach. We teach about going inside, feeling what's right for you. So I would really like to encourage you, when you're looking for a training, that you go and start to use your intuition, because that's the first part of becoming a yoga teacher, because you're using your intuition more than anything when you're teaching yoga, when you're, well, living your life. Actually, we should use that amazing quality of intuition. So how does it look like now? You have been searching for yoga teacher trainings, you get the feel from the website, you may go visit the class, you get to know the teacher, you ask all these questions. So what's next? You say, like, okay, I think this is the right place for you. Well, that's wonderful, because then you're on the way to, well, let's say then you make the decision that you're going to change something about your life, because a yoga teacher training is most of all like a change in your own way of being. Because you may be able, or not be able, but you are hopefully ready to let go of the things which hasn't served you in your life, and then hopefully you are taking on new things which serve your life better. That's how it's been for me. Each training was like going deeper, and letting go of that old me, because I didn't like myself anymore, because there was things about myself which I said, like, if I keep this having in my life, it's an obstacle. It keeps me from moving forward. And so when you are going into a teacher training, be ready to change, and it's a wonderful thing. Thank you.